News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
A budget has been passed, but there may be a veto. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. Congratulations, you made it. It's Friday, March 20th, 2015. Thanks for joining us. Skies mostly clear. It's 32 degrees in Missoula right now. And our newscast is sponsored by Kootenai Creek Village. They're the maintenance-free active adult community in Stevensville. The best of Western Montana living is waiting. Call 777-5387. The Republican-led House passed a $10 billion budget bill just hours after Democrat Governor Steve Bullock threatened to veto it for failing to fund critical services such as protecting children from abuse. Bullock issued the threat yesterday while the House was rejecting Democratic efforts to restore about $1 billion in funding programs included in his budget proposal. The House passed the bill 59-41 on a party-line vote on Thursday afternoon. Bullock said the Senate and his administration must reject the unproductive actions of House leadership and work together on a budget that lives within the state's means and meets the needs of Montanans. Representative Nancy Balance of Hamilton said GOP-led committees have already dived into the details over the last 6 weeks. Missoula's condemnation lawsuit against Mountain Water Company continued yesterday with the city's chief administrative officer, Bruce Bender, on the stand. During interrogation by the city's attorney, Bender stated that the water system can have over a 50% leakage rate, and this was a worrying sign, quote, a canary in the coal mine, end quote.
The pipe distribution system is aging. It needs to be replaced. It's leaking. And yet we are not responding to it because it's going to cost too much. And that's the most significant problem here is how do you afford to do all this replacement of this $100 million worth of pipe structure?
Bender said that aging infrastructure in the hands of a private company was, quote, a gold mine, end quote.
Well, the problem with that, it is a gold mine for a privately profit-oriented company because it's a great opportunity to make a lot of money on this replacement because you can raise rates, justify that this needs to be done.
So not only a problem for our citizens, but a problem because it's a gold mine for others?
According to Bender, Missoula's water system is extremely desirable to private companies because the Public Service Commission nearly always approves of rate hikes. A sentencing hearing has been postponed for a 53-year-old Charlo man who had pleaded guilty to killing his younger brother. Harry Lozo is being given 1 week to decide if he wants to withdraw a guilty plea to deliberate homicide. Lozo pleaded guilty in January to killing his brother in June during an argument over pickup repairs. Kerr AM and Jeff Smith and Polson reports District Judge James Manley said he would not abide by the recommended 40-year prison sentence in the plea agreement. Lozo would have been eligible for parole after about 10 years. Montana Attorney General Tim Fox says a cloture vote in the U.S. Senate has split Montana's 2 senators on the issue of an anti-human trafficking bill. Fox told me yesterday he encouraged both senators, Steve Daines and John Tester, to end a filibuster and pass Senate Bill 187.
That's been a priority of my office, is to try to crack down on human trafficking. Much of it, of course, is sex trafficking. A lot of that is trafficking of minors, but there's also labor trafficking. It's a worldwide problem. Montana's not immune to it.
Fox said the cloture vote for the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act was taken at noon yesterday in the Senate. And under the cloture rule, the Senate may limit consideration of a pending matter to 30 additional hours.
The vote that the Senate took today to decide whether to close the debate was unsuccessful. Senator Daines voted for cloture so that we can get a vote and get this act passed, and Senator Tester voted against that.
Fox said every year as many as 100,000 children are trafficked in the sex trade in this country and that 55% of the world's child pornography is produced here. ExxonMobil Corporation has completed $1.3 million in environmental projects as part of its settlement of water pollution violations from a 2011 pipeline break in Montana's Yellowstone River. The Texas oil giant paid for emergency training for local responders, fisheries improvement projects on the river, and new leak detection equipment for the state. The company had previously paid $300,000 in cash to the state as part of that settlement. A home explosion in Anaconda lit up emergency lines after waking up a good portion of the city Wednesday night. The explosion was so fierce it bowed the walls of nearby homes and embedded shards of glass in the sides of vehicles. Anaconda Police Chief Tim Barkell told our John King what happened.
We received a call around 11:17 last night of an explosion on at 309 West 3rd in Anaconda. Yeah, we were getting flooded with calls. We had the whole fire department, lot from the police department. We had DES down there and Red Cross, of course, Northwestern Energy.
Luckily, the house was empty. No pets or people were injured in the blast, but neighbors had to be removed from their homes because of the danger.
It completely destroyed the house. There was a few houses and vehicles. The house next door, the 307, it bowed one of the walls in and broke a lot of windows. Throughout the neighborhood there of houses and vehicles. There's glass embedded into vehicles that were parked there.
It was determined a natural gas explosion. A Washington state woman received a suspended sentence for her involvement in a drug-related kidnapping and near-fatal shooting that occurred in July of last year on I-90. Catherine Grace Evans appeared at Missoula District Court this week before Judge Karen Townsend. Chief Deputy Missoula County Attorney Jason Marks has details.
But she was the driver, and she had pled guilty to accountability for kidnapping and was sentenced. She received a 10-year suspended sentence in Montana Women's Prison, so she'll be on probation for the next 10 years.
Mark said Troy Anthony Miller, the man who shot Michael Drodzowitz, was sentenced to 20 years in prison for his part in the kidnapping, robbery, and shooting. And a 19-year-old man on probation made several poor decisions early this morning when he was spotted in a local tavern by Missoula police. Sergeant Casey Richardson has more.
This morning about 2 o'clock in the morning, one of the probation officers was doing a standard check and observed one of their probationers at a local bar. And when they went to make contact, that probationer took off on foot.
Richardson said the story doesn't end there as the young man fled a second time.
That young man, 19-year-old young man, had went home, and before they could get to the house, once again he was fleet of foot and took off. Officer Cameron was able to get him on the cell phone, and after a short visit, get him to come down and turn himself in. So it was a good morning when nobody had to wrestle with anybody and everybody went home safe.
The man's name has not yet been released, but he'll appear in Missoula Justice Court on a probation violation later today. Newstalk Time, 6:10.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Mostly sunny skies today with our high temperatures in the upper 60s, close to 70. Mostly cloudy tonight with our lows right around the 40-degree mark. A cold front will bring a round of showers and gusty winds to the area on Saturday. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for KECI 13.